The fact that isekai genre is still popular 4 or so years after its explosion is like the existence of Papua New Guinea or the inexplicable desire to break rules during a life-threatening event. It's just something about both humanity and the current world we live in that I find utterly incomprehensible, especially now where every isekai genre is either comedic or is basically just a fantasy story with some random Japanese body snatcher riding along because the gods were especially bored that day. The main difference of The Eighth Sun, are you kidding me, a 12-episode isekai anime developed by Synergy SP and people who make Doraemon, is that it tries to be both and fails miserably at it. So in this anime we follow the story of some Japanese asshole who gets home from his job and gets transported into... oh, fuck me. Wendelin von Benno Baumeister, a 5-year-old 8th son of a poor land-owning knight in some bumfuck nowhere that is, in actuality, a mage, which in this world basically means that you've won all the lottery tickets, took a position of a CEO in an important company, and at least 6 conventionally attractive women are lining up to receive a portion of your master's sperm. How does him being a Japanese salaryman plays into this, you may ask? Hell if I know, ladies and gentlemen, because it is established that magic is given to people at random, so either the story could just as well function without the isekai element, or the only reason we need the main hero to be spiritually Japanese is so that he could spouse how awesome and cool Japanese food is. I'll leave the choice to the viewer. What else is there I hate about it? Oh, that's right, the artificial difficulty of protagonist's starting position. It is a new pet peeve of mine in this Japanese isekai business that the hero starts as something very weak and insignificant and then in a span of a couple of episodes just becomes basically God. At first it did the job just fine, but now it's starting to get tedious, especially in this anime where they aren't even going to pretend that Dwell's upbringing is in any way, shape or form complicates his life. He might as well just be born as a dog and it would change fuck all. He would get his magical powers from a magical magic user and then kill a bone dragon and bam! But perhaps the biggest thing I hate about this show is how it managed to fuck up even the power fantasy aspect of isekai. For it to be a power fantasy, the hero is supposed to consciously exercise his power to achieve his own goals, or at the very least remove obstacles. Here, he does neither. Everyone constantly uses him. Everything he obtains is a part of some scheme he either doesn't know or barely acknowledges, making it look as if the protagonist has no agency whatsoever outside of the last 2 episodes, and incidentally, there was a scene in the show where Ventolin summoned panties for comedic effect, and his supporting women were all typical Japanese women about it. You are engaged with him, and you two literally sold your vaginas and reproductive rights to him. You don't get to play all coy after that. And you may think that I'm being too harsh on the anime, but you see, if this was just another one of those comedic isekais, I would have been more lenient on it, but it isn't. Well, or at least it tries its hardest not to be. Unfortunately, I can't really classify it as a serious anime either, because for it to be serious, the plot doesn't have to look like a bunch of bullet points. The graphics are average, the animation is cheap, the music is probably the only part of the anime I have no problems with, if only because there's not a lot of it, and the opening has the most 90s sounding song I've heard in a long while. Also highly inappropriate tone-wise, but that's nothing to be worried about too much. Maybe the author wanted to create a more realistic take on how a salaryman would actually behave in such a situation, but in the end, 8th son of the 8th son is a boring, confusing mess with a protagonist who has the charisma of a floor mat, the crew that's both ruthless and exploitative, a setting that is banal, and most importantly, a story that can't decide on what the fuck it wants to be. Outside of a pretty cool opening, it is pretty much a waste of time watching it, and the only thing I regret is that I'll have to actually waste some brain space to remember this anime for the inevitable top 5.